This is Jeff McGovern, the Pest Coach, and what we're going to discuss here today is Nature's Defense. But first of all, how do you reach myself or Mark Weiser, the founder and president of Nature's Defense? You can see the information right here on the slide. You've got our email addresses and our cell phone numbers. So it's easy to reach us if you have any questions. After we get done with the presentation, please reach out. This is an important product, and we want to make sure it's used properly. Now, this is a pest control reality we all have to face. We cannot prevent introduction, and the reason for that is pest pressure is a constant. It's always pushing up against the structures and the sites we deal with. But properly deploying pest control processes and using them correctly, we can prevent the infestation from breaking out. In other words, we're not going to have pests taking up residence and reproducing. Now, the reality of Nature's Defense is just this. It's a product that represents peace of mind because it is a green product, and that means, at least in the case of the United States, it's a 25B exempt product, which means it's exempt from registration. So therefore, it's considered to be very, very low hazard. So it brings peace of mind to the client knowing we're not coming in there with toxicants and possibly traps that could hurt someone if they aren't used properly. Now, working together with the client, we're going to get the best results. And that means Nature's Defense and the pest control team, as well as the client, getting together to make sure that everything is taken care of to make life completely miserable for the pests, but very pleasant and accommodating for the human beings that inhabit the space. Now, there are 5 primary processes in pest control, and I want you to see just where Nature's Defense fits. Now, these processes are pretty simple. It's heat, cold, fume, chemical, and mechanical processes. These are the things that we can do to mitigate pest issues. We can heat them to the point of heat stress and they die. We can drop their body temperature with certain pieces of equipment and kill them that way. We can fumigate a space. And generally what most people think of there is the tent over the top of something and the gas pushed into that space, and anything with respiration dies. Of course, none of those 3 things have any type of residual action. The chemical component of the pest control processes is where we get long-term residual action. And Nature's Defense falls under the chemical category, and of course it's a 25B exempt. And finally, you have your mechanical processes, and that might be something as simple as a trap. Now, moving forward, these are the 12 key factors of pest control. These represent the baseline understanding of what goes on in the pest control industry and how everything relates. These are the first 4 items: access, food, water, and harborage. These represent the resources that anything needs to become a pest: a way in, something to eat, something to drink, and of course, a place to live. If these things are available, and in most cases in human habitation and structures they are, pests will move into the space and take up residence because the resources they need to survive are there. What we need to do is find these resource sites as well as the pests themselves. And to do that, we have to look underneath, around, behind, and on top of, using all 5 of our senses, taking care to get into everything we possibly can, kind of like peeling the onion and looking for greater detail. Now, once we have gotten everything nailed down, these are the solutions to pest problems. Notice it doesn't say spray, fog, bomb, bait, trap, or fumigate. There's a reason for that, because all of those things are tools that professionals use to mitigate pest issues. But the real solutions are cleaning, sanitation, maintenance, and product rotation. In other words, we have to make that site inhospitable because of the fine condition that it's kept in. The pests cannot find their resources. We're controlling and dealing with those. Nature's Defense, in all cases, will act to make the site inhospitable while making it quite nice for human beings to inhabit. Now, this is the current model. Rodent control right now, essentially, is a passive death march of traps, bait stations, and glue boards. Year upon year of services from company after company. That's pretty much it. Yes, we have exclusion processes in there where we try to build things out, but the reality is the pressure is never ending. So it's constantly pushing against that. And in most cases, this is the basis of rodent control virtually worldwide right now. And it's also the reason you have from company after company. Because when I'm in the field looking at job sites for clients, I see failure upon failure where people have come in and simply repeated this process over and over and over. What we have to do is change the old ways. Don't make them go away. These tools are valuable to us. We're going to change the ways we use them, and we're going to add some new ideas to the mix so little critters like this are being dealt with in an appropriate manner, and frankly, we get our spaces back without them involved in the process. You need to check the site, the job site, before you arrive, and Google Earth is ideal for this. Go to the address where you're going to end up, where you've got your job site, put it into Google Earth, and you can pop it up and look at it from above. You can also look at Street View, and I'll show you a quick example of that in a moment. But what you need to do is know the area around your job site intimately so that you can properly deal with the pest pressures that are pushing against it. Now, the red rat is sitting on top of a USDA meat facility, and it's getting hammered with rodents. A lot of activity here. And just quickly, 6 sites around there that are probably adding to the issue because you've got scents and odors coming out of that site that are very, very attractive. You also obviously have a fair amount of trash and everything. But let's look at 6 different zones here. Number 1, that zone is actually the City Housing Authority. And of course, as with most housing authorities, there's a lot of pest issues going on that are being combated on a regular basis. So you have problems radiating from there. Site number 2 is a city bus garage. And at this point, it was actually abandoned. There was trash everywhere, old pieces of equipment, the perfect adjacent harborage for rodents to be. Just below number 2, you'll notice there's a pond. And right next to number 2 and number 3, there's a railroad track going right down past everything. Site number 3 was a residential site that was also a crime site. So things went on there that added to pest issues. Site number 4, that wood lot on top of the plant, that's actually a homeless encampment. And I went into that woods and took a look around, and imagine a totally trashed campsite, probably a total of about 15 or 16 people living there semi-permanently without proper sanitation facilities. It was a wreck. So that area was feeding rodents right into that plant where there was a lot of available food. Site number 5, another set of low-income apartments with some criminal activity. And site number 6, right adjacent to the plant itself on the other side of the fence line, another high crime area that was also producing pest issues. So you have to know the history of the area and how it's pressuring the site that you're going to be contracting to deal with. Now, I've got an important historical date listed there, the 27th of June, 2014. That was the very first day that I visited that plant myself and made the initial application of Nature's Defense to the site. From that day on, we kept up the Nature's Defense applications on a monthly basis. I was assessing that site weekly, daily, whatever I needed to do to find out the distribution of the animals and what was happening. And you know what? Nothing after that date. And this was a heavily pressured site with massive bait station activity, lots of bait being consumed, animals being trapped during holiday shutdowns by the dozens, and yet Nature's Defense turned it off. And that was in the face of all the pressure from the surrounding areas. Here's that street view I promised you. This is the west side of the plant. There's that railroad track. There's a set of the woods going through there along the track. You can see the retention pond, and the trees behind the plant is that homeless area. I put this in there because I picked this up off Google Earth. So I was able to visit the site before going there and get some idea about what I was running into and be able to spot vulnerable zones around it that were pressuring what was soon to be my customer. So this is why it's valuable, because you can see it from the air and you can see it from the street. Now, once you arrive, you have to provide your client with focus. And the way you do that is think of the word assess. What you're really seeking out and you want information about is sightings and signs, sounds and smells related to rodents. This is how you focus the client. Now you focus them by asking the right question. Where was the last place you saw, smelled, heard, maybe felt, and as a last resort tasted? Although I don't know that we want to go quite that far, I believe that the other ones will suffice. But by focusing the client in this fashion, you're not going to get the, oh, they're everywhere, because that doesn't help you. What you have to do here is form that partnership we spoke about moments ago. And you do this by asking them, for example, where was the last place you saw a rat? They'll think about it, they'll tell you, and then you say, show me. At that point, you've got a partnership, and you'll be able to fix this site with the right tools. In other words, what you're going to do is pattern that rodent population. You'll figure out what the distribution is. Now, are you going to get it right on the first go-around? Maybe not. But you're going to get enough clues to actually begin the process of telling these animals, you need to leave. You're not going to be comfortable here anymore. And the product that can do that is Weiser's Nature's Defense. It comes as a loose granule, it comes as a liquid, and it comes as a packet. And that packet is air permeable and contains loose granules, so you can put them out in the packet form and then retrieve them as necessary. In going into a plant or any situation, different product lines are going to be used in different areas. For sake of example, on soft areas outside, gravel, grass, any type of material up against the building, the perimeter, you could put loose granules out at 1 pound per 100 lineal feet. And that'll begin to form a barrier. And in fact, over time, doing this on a monthly basis, it gets even stronger to the animals. Doesn't bother the people or any pets. The liquid product, you put those out in the high pressure zones. You can also cut areas off with liquid, and you can certainly get them moving very, very quickly. If you have to take them out of a large void space, you could use the liquid with a ULV if you needed to. So you've got options here. The packets allow you to place the loose granule where you can actually retrieve it. And in many cases, say above an office, for example, where we have false ceilings, and people say, I hear them running above my head. Well, in many cases, the packet suspended up above about a foot off that running surface, and you can put them up with a hook or anything like that, or you can put them in a housing box and place the housing boxes up there. The whole trick here is airflow. That'll clear the rodents out of that area, and then if you need to, you can just pull the packets out later, or replace them on a regular basis. And there's a lot of options here that you have. Once you've done the assessment on the site, you'll figure out where these various tools fit. Now, the beauty of Nature's Defense, it's not only labeled for rodents. There's actually 26 different wild animals on the label. And you can see as well as I can, it goes all the way from deer to iguana. And by the way, the iguana situation, I realize in most of the United States this is not an issue. But iguana, say in southeast Florida and the Keys and places like that, those creatures will defoliate an area. Well, Nature's Defense has been able to protect those plants. And of course, in other areas, deer do the same thing. But you've got options here with one product line that can serve you so well, and what it's doing is telling those animals, no, not here, not now, this isn't happening, you're going to need to leave. And that's the beauty of Nature's Defense, because it's not harming them, it's simply telling them to stay away. If you need to employ some type of a more permanent solution, do that away from your job site. For sake of example, if you've done around the outside of a restaurant, and you've got the animals out of there, well, go ahead and put killing measures in the trash area where they already forage anyway, and take the populations down in that zone. So there are a lot of options here. When you get into a site, you figure out the best way to deal with it most effectively with the least amount of hazard for your client. And ultimately, the peace of mind thing comes back once again. Nature's defense is protecting them and their property. And so with that, this is Jeff McGovern, the Pest Coach. And as I said, if you have any questions or we can be of any further help, just call me or call Mark Weiser himself. You folks take care and have a wonderful day and stay safe in the field.